Alright, next I'm going to install this part here, and this basically goes down. These two fingers ride on that thrust on that sleeve, and this whole thing pivots on this right here. Now this has to go in a specific way, and I don't know if you can see or not, but if you look at the cross section of this, there's actually a 90-degree angle formed by these two flats, and directly opposite that on this side here is this little sharp area right here, which they describe in the manual as the knife edge. Alright, so I just consulted the manual. This is called the governor arm, by the way, and it basically says that this gets inserted down inside there with this part right here facing towards the rear, which I never took the spring off, so I know that it has to go that way, obviously, because this part I know is towards the rear. Anyways, well, actually it's more like, well, I'll get to that in a second. I'm just going to keep this off to the side. So this gets installed like this, down inside there, and then this is the pivot, and that knife edge is supposed to point towards the rear. And that actually kind of makes sense too, because when you take this out and you look at it right here, you'll see that there is there's a little area there where that knife edge is going to sit right in, like this. I don't know if you could see that or not. Come on. It takes a little bit of fussing, but I got it through the first section. Now I got to get it to come through back here. There we go. Alright, so I know I've got my knife edge pointing to the rear. Alright, so I've got that in. Now I've got to install little tiny O-rings that end up acting as seals on the ends of these shafts, and then putting on these little brass hex nuts. So I go back to my handy dandy kit, and I noticed in this envelope I've got the two smallest O-rings that I see in the whole kit right there, those little green ones. So I believe those are going to be my correct O-rings for this application. That's one. Two. Oh, look at these little interesting bushing looking things. I don't know where they go. Didn't take anything like those out on this pump. I've got, looking at my little discard pile over here off to the side, I've got my two little O-rings right here that I took off that original shaft. So I'll put those on my replaced pile. and install my new O-rings. And I'm just gonna start one of these nuts on one side. Then we get the O-ring on this side. I believe it says to successfully tighten each one to the specified torque. Yeah, easier said than done, right? Alright. What size was that? Bet you it's this size because I haven't changed this socket. Yeah, that's it. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to dip that in the fluid. That governor arm, I meant to lubricate that before I put it in. Well, that'll be pretty well lubricated because that's going to be completely submerged in fluid even before I start the engine. Because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bleed off any air in here, and this whole area, this whole compartment here is going to fill up with fuel. I see my battery on my camera's dying. Let's see if we can't finish torquing this. Find that torque spec for that. Let's see. Delivery valve, timing, cover, head locking, head locating, end plate, positioning screw, hold down cover, guide stud. Pivot shaft nut with O-ring, 20 to 25 inch-pounds. 20 to 25 inch-pounds. Alright, so I've set my wrench to 25 inch-pounds. And again, I want to keep swapping from side to side. Oh. Already there. Alright, so that takes care of that. Trying to verify that that's pivoting the way it should. I think it is. The lever doesn't seem to be moving very much, but then again, we're talking about a very tiny amount of movement that would be necessary to rotate that metering valve. So I think we've got that in correctly. Alright, now I'm going to install the metering valve assembly, which is right here. Just took it out of my fluid bath. And that's going to get installed with its spring, which is right here. Make sure that spring is clean. Yeah, I think there's a little wash. Yeah, there's a tiny washer in my fluid bath there. I got a fish out that goes on that metering valve. Double check that on the parts diagram here. I'm pretty sure it does exist. Yes, it does. It's got a spring. The spring has a wide part and a narrow part. The wide part faces down. And then there's this tiny little washer. And then there's the metering valve itself and the little arm that's attached to it. So this is actually two separate pieces, but I never took this apart. So, because I'm reusing my metering valve because it appears to be in good shape. So first I'm going to slide this little tiny washer on, and then I'm going to slide the spring on with the wide part facing down because that's how it goes in. And I'm going to tilt the pump assembly up so this doesn't all fall apart on me. And let's see, I believe this, let's see if I can remember how this goes now. Yeah, this flat arm right here, actually goes on this side because that's what hits this little stop right here, which is an adjustment. I'm not sure if that's the high idle, high speed, or low speed. Anyways, that's how I know that this is how this goes in. So I'm going to install that. There we go, just like that. So that goes in like that. So you can see that as this rotates, you can only go back so far because it hits this stop.